undergone a process of accreditation. Some NITs have done it by being part of engineering institutes, because there is no accreditation manual in India, and accreditation manual itself requires this outcome-based education pattern. Because accreditation itself is like you recognize my degree, I recognize your degree by matching the outcomes. So the whole thing is supposed to be oriented towards the syllabus content as an I mean, at the end of it, what is the outcome from it? So that in majority of our institutes right now in the planning education is not there. So we have to move towards that. Now, of course, this also is the NEP 2020 says that all higher education and the national skills qualification framework has to be in synchronization. Although in our case, it does not matter that much. So it also talks about multiple exit options for UG programs. It talks about moving towards a more multidisciplinary education in UG programs. It tries to lay a lot of focus on creativity, innovation and research. And it also talks about many of the student support systems. Now we will go a little to some of these. I already talked about NEP, and one thing is there right now. Government of India has started Study in India program. That means government wants that students from outside our country should be coming to India, and it should become an education hub. But here comes the first question then: if students from outside other countries come and study planning, will our degrees be accepted that way, that they can register in their own professional bodies in their own country? So that will be the first big question. So that's why again we come back to the same thing of accreditation and mutual understanding between countries. So that part has to be seen in this context, or else we will not be in a position to participate well in that Study in India program. Then the next is that the whole course has to be now written in a little different way. That is, for every course and every year or every semester and then every year, what are the outcomes that are going to be there after the education part. So these outcomes will create a certain kind of graduate attribute or graduate quality or characteristic. And the document of NEGQF gives these generic qualities or characteristics of the students for every year. So now our course then has to be restructured, and programs have to be restructured a little bit, trying to match the sort of generic attributes that are already mentioned, because these generic attributes are good, and many of the generic attributes actually we do not pay much attention to right now in our programs. So it actually talks about level 5 to level 10 concerning every year, starting from first year of undergraduate program to a doctoral program. So what are these? So level 5 is the first year completion of an undergraduate program, and level 9 is the second year completion of a master's program. And you can see that they have talked about many kind of degrees and certificates. These degrees and certificates are supposed to be the exit options. Now, yesterday also we spoke about it, and Professor Dr. Mesramji also suggested that if they take an exit, what kind of jobs they can do. Now, as I mentioned, that engineering programs have already undergone this whole process of outcome-based education way of teaching, because they have been undergoing the accreditation program because of Washington Accord, in which India is a signatory. But we have not taken that much initiative from our side to create our own kind of accreditation manual. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that some of the NITs have already done this, some other engineering colleges who are running planning programs have undergone this accreditation program through engineering accreditation manual, matching it with that only. So my first suggestion here is that ITPI may take a lead in this matter and begin pulling together the people and trying to create our own kind of accreditation manual, but it should be matching with the worldwide accreditation manuals in this regard, so we can refer to our own engineering accreditation manual. Now, the multiple exit options that are being talked about, of course, the level 5, that is after completion of the first year, there are a lot of students who drop out because they don't like the discipline as such. Although the ministry is talking about the student should not be at a loss and he should be in a position to do some work, but hardly that will happen after first year. We can always give a certificate and leave it as such, but then because there is also a talk about academic bank of credit and all institutions are having to register with that. So the credits that he has earned, we give a certificate, but the credits remain in the academic bank of credit. If any other organization, institution he or she joins, and then they wish to acknowledge those credits as a primary input for the other discipline that he or she is going to study, then well and fine. The level 6, which is after second year, there are hardly any dropouts, but then it talks about a diploma after these 2 years, but the issue is currently there are many kinds of diplomas. One kind of diploma is also after 3 years. So we have to see that this diploma, what if one takes, then how then that person again joins back the stream and where one person can join back. That would become the main issue in this context. And bachelor's degree after 3 years. Now this is quite possible. Only thing is that again here also that joining back has to be seen first. So the whole NHEQF suggests 3-year degree, 4-year degree, 1-year master's program and 2 years master program. But 2 years master program, they are saying after 3 years of bachelor's, and 1-year master's program. My suggestion in this context is that our own 4-year courses can be converted into 5-year courses also, whereby integrated B plan, M plan, and all those people who have done a 4-year course can now join this 5-year course laterally to have that 1-year program. The 3-year people, those who have taken a bachelor's degree at 3 years, since they would not have done a thesis project by 3rd year, they would be required to do a minor dissertation at 3rd year, but they can join the 2-year programs, and the 2-year programs should be kept open for other disciplines. Whereas the 1-year program, if we bring it to the integrated program, that means lateral entry to integrated programs, then this question should not be arising of other disciplines joining that 1-year program or the 5-year program. Then I have already talked about this level 9, 1-4, and the only thing is that we have to work out in that 4-year and 5-year. That okay, in the 3rd year level, do a minor dissertation. 4th year, you do, if you are doing an integrated, a second minor dissertation. And in the 5th year, do a thesis. But if you are going out at the 4th year level, then you do a thesis. So that minor adjustment of the course structure will become then necessary. Now, it also talks about multidisciplinary education for UG programs. Now, as I understand that this concept has been very old. When I studied myself in my undergraduate studies, we were having to do lot of non-disciplinary courses. I studied architecture. I had to do one course from science, one course from technology, one course from economics, social science, languages. So even at that time also this concept was there, but this concept has been brought back. But then when this concept has been brought back, what my previous speaker was speaking, it gives us an opportunity to exactly go that in that path. And also it allows us, another thing is that we sometimes planning schools like SPA are a small school. We do not have different kind of expertise within the school. Now it gives us an opportunity to allow our students to do these courses elsewhere through digital media, and the pandemic has paved the way. Now we are allowing hybrid mode, online modes, and the courses can be taken from elsewhere. So, but of course, there are certain requirements in NHEQF. So, courses in planning curricula may be classified as core and non-core subjects. The non-core courses may be part of a choice-based curriculum framework, which partially we have adopted long time back in SPA Bhopal. When this NEP was not there, that is, we have put the courses not as electives, but put the courses together, and you can choose any few of this. Minimum requirement is mentioned, but the students can take more, which will be only reflected in the transcript. That is, minimum courses required for the degree where these one student has done more, so it will be reflected. So opportunity now then comes that, okay, the students can choose not only courses, few options you can leave there to take courses from other universities so that we become more multidisciplinary. But in big university cases from other departments and likewise. Now there is this focus on creativity, innovation and research in both UG and PG programs now. Of course, this document talks about all kinds of disciplines and not necessarily only technical. In our kind of courses at the fourth year level, we already had projects, but it was not there in the general discipline. So this statement. But then also at the same time, there are few other things that being in education, we are now right now facing is that government has started ARIA, that is auto ranking of institutes on innovation achievement, apart from NIRF, and this is going to take over NIRF in coming times. It has also started supporting institutions innovation council. Government of India is also supporting Atal incubation centers, just to have that, okay, every technology, everything we are bringing from large number we are bringing from abroad. Why in India we are not able to do so? There is a big push on it, and planning education also cannot escape this. SPA Bhopal right now is actually trying to have a have an incubation center in our own institute. Few days back only there was a visit from a member from a person from Niti Aayog, but then we cannot now go out of these things. So in both our UG and PG programs, so that's why my suggestion is that there has to be now additional courses which we are not doing on research methodology, creativity and entrepreneurship. Then the student support systems, like there are few things that are very important here. One is credit transfer, the academic bank of credit and equivalence. Now, how do we establish equivalence of different kind of degrees? We have no established, of course, AIU, that is Association of Indian Universities, gives equivalence. Similarly, there is EDSIL, another organization which also gives equivalence for programs. But for our case, we do not yet have this kind of equivalence of different programs. So the biggest issue is there are 1 year master's degree right now in UK. And when somebody is coming and joining here, trying to join even as a faculty, are we considering it as equivalent? Right now, there is no method to consider. So these issues come. Similarly, the equivalence of the courses that are being done, because outside, suppose I take a course from another university and the course carries 4 credits. But in my own system, if I am not flexible and I said that, okay, you will have to do 200 credits or 100 credits, and this is this like this, so replacement of a 4 credit subject with a 3 credit subject. So these flexibilities are necessary and these equivalence procedures are to be set, which are right now not a big practice in our discipline. So these also have to be done. And as I mentioned earlier that now hybrid modes are available. So in our institute, in our course framework, say in environmental planning, we have already done that. We have kept a slot for doing course from another university or SWAYAM portal or MOOC, and then we are going to give that credit ourselves a certain number of credits, irrespective of whatever that other subject gave, the credit that they gave. Now, another question comes here of ABC. Of course, I have not seen the ABC portal myself, although in our institution is registering for ABC. But the question is that suppose somebody has done some courses from some other place. Now my requirements are something. Now what happens to these additional courses? As an institute, when the institute is giving a transcript, am I to suppose, my suggestion is that we may then have within the syllabus structure, we have to have a system, some replacement, that in place, instead of my course, one has done some other course from another university, and some additional courses that one has done. So the transcript itself will reflect from the academic bank of credit, a student, if he has done some other courses elsewhere. Right now, we were not doing this kind of a thing, except that in our course at SPA Bhopal, we had kept one credit only, a slot, whereby we used to give a student a credit for doing different things, including if one has done a course on internet or some other place, additional some course. So within that one credit, we used to give him some credit. But now this system we have to reflect upon to include in our own transcripts that apart from the core course, the minimum requirements, what the students have done additionally from other institutes. Now this previous part was in the context of in the context of what the NHEQF and NEP demands us to do. And I have added a little brief part because after all, it is innovation in planning education. So if we look at, I fully agree with my previous speaker in this regard. If we look at the world, then there has been some global policy shifts in planning. One thing that we are now adopting, that is business driven planning. The TOD and TDR and all these are reflective of the business driven planning approach. But we never adopted anything called competitiveness. Commitment for involvement, that is participatory community planning, we have not started here. Although there are ward councils, but then ward councils hardly does anything. Sorry. But I have taken on so far 10, 5, 15, 17 minutes. I'm looking at my watch. 20 minutes you gave me. Then localism and devolution of power and community rights, this kind of concepts we have not introduced in India. Sustainable city, only environmental part we are considering a lot, but the social part, the economic part, we are not considering while we are planning. Smart city and technology disruptions. Of course, the NEP talks more about adoption of the technology disruptions, but these parts are from our own side, that which we are not looking much at. But what the document of Niti Aayog says, globally the planning education has progressed from focusing on just physical design to technological innovation and social science research-based planning and public policy. Hence, the programs may have to stress more on social science research. That is our program: social science research, policy analysis, evidence-based planning practices and research for that. Then critical thinking oriented learning, which we don't do. We do teaching of subjects. But rather than teaching of subjects, the subject contents are nowadays available on the internet only. So it has to be more on critical thinking oriented. That is the subjects you learn, but in the classes we do the critical thinking part. Then process innovation through big data analytics we have to adopt. And so basically that computer programming and all that part has to be brought into our syllabus also, just like the engineers have. Then technological disruption adoption, that is drones, AI, ML, blockchain and all these things, etc. So the next part was my conclusions and recommendations. So since time is over, but I think I have spoken about what I am suggesting all through. So thank you so much for a patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mandal. You have really developed a good insight into the new National Education Policy 2020. And of course, we heard you before also. And that's a very